Gotta catch some more Pokemon. Hey there guys, so I'm back with a massive rankings video. Now with the release of Detective Pikachu coming out on Blu-ray this month, I thought it was a perfect time to rewatch all the Pokemon films and rank them all. As an old school Pokemon fan, this was quite fun to do. I got to see how much this franchise has evolved over the years and see its missteps. There are some films that won't be on this list because they're not technically films, they're more as hour specials, and that's Mewtwo Returns and the Mastermind of Mirage Pokemon, and also the recent Mewtwo Strikes Back Evolution won't be on this list because it's just a cop-out film with some bad animation. At number 22, I have Black Fatini and Reshiram and White Fatini and Zekrom. They're pretty much the same film but with different Pokemon. Why? Look, I can forgive it for its forgettable elements like the pacing, the characters, the story, but having two films with the same plot, changing Reshiram to Zekrom and Zekrom to Reshiram, I find it frustrating and lazy. I just don't know why they did this. It's like saying if Spell Unknown were made into 3 films like for Entei, Suicune and Raikou. At number 21 is Genesect and the Legend Awakens. They ruined Mewtwo, and that's a shame because it would have been interesting having Mewtwo and Genesect in the same film because they're both man-made Pokemon, but it doesn't work. I mean, if Genesect was just a focus and don't have Mewtwo, this film would have been a little bit more higher, even with its major flaws, but Mewtwo just felt so forced in this film. He's only in this film just to show off his Mega Evolution, and you're saying to yourself, does Mewtwo need a Mega Evolution? Because he's one of the most powerful Pokemon. Plus, Mewtwo sounds like a woman, and he's encountered Ash before, but they somehow don't recognize each other. This and Fintini are the only films that I wouldn't recommend to Pokemon fans, just skip them. At number 20 is the one I would consider watchable in the black and white era, and that's Cocoon versus the Sword of Justice. Now, you probably know I don't like the black and white era, but Cocoon to me is such a great antagonist. He's a lot more interesting than Zekrom and Reshiram. It's one of those films to me that has great ideas just poorly executed with plot holes. Ash is only in this film just to support Keldeo, but Keldeo to me is a pretty cool Pokemon. At number 19, it's a not so special Jirachi Wishmaker. This film doesn't really do anything for me. Max's annoying T-Magma don't play a big part in this film. Groudon isn't technically in this film. And the animation is mostly dark, but the one thing I did appreciate was when Ash confesses that he misses Misty. At number 18 is the one I forget, and that's a shame because it's from one of my favourite eras of Pokemon, and that's Zorak the Master of Illusions. Somewhere in this film there is a complex story of an interesting villain who wants to use Zorak's powers, and Zorak is one of my favourite Pokemon, but the film doesn't really give him any justice. And why was Celebi in this film? At number 17 is a film that a lot of people don't like, but for me, I don't mind this one, and that's Hooper and the Clash of Ages. Now, on paper, this would have been the ultimate Pokemon film. A Pokemon that is able to summon any other Pokemon, including legendary Pokemon. And it was fun to watch all these legendary Pokemon fighting each other, but it just has bad exposition and plot holes. At number 16 is Giratina and the Sky Warrior. Now, I like what this film was doing. It was continuing plot points from the previous films, and that was something we've never seen in a Pokemon film before. The story of Giratina and the reverse film was interesting, but Shaman didn't really need to be in this film, but he is so cute. But the pacing was all over the place. There are some entertaining scenes, however, but not enough to save the film. At number 15, I have Pokemon Ranger and the Temple of Sea. It's very similar to Jirachi Wishmaker, but slightly better with better pacing, clearer animation, interesting characters. My only gripe with this film is that it's an hour and 45 minutes. It's the longest Pokemon film. And that's a shame because it does lose momentum towards the third act. At number 14, I have Diancie and the Cocoon of Destruction. Now, I really like this one apart from the third act that's kind of messy, and Xerneas and Diancie aren't that interesting, but Diancie is just such a cute Pokemon, and the way she interacts with the team is just so fun to watch. At number 13 is Osseous and the Jewel of Life. Now, I find this one to be a satisfying conclusion to the Diamond and Pearl trilogy, and seeing time travel again in a different way was interesting, but the plot can be very confusing at times. At number 12, I have Pokemon Heroes. The best thing to come out of this film is the design and the look to this Venice-esque city. I like how the film is essential focus on just on Ash, and the story of Latios and Lutios is interesting to watch. My only gripe with this film is that the pacing is on and off. At number 11, I have Pokemon Forever. Out of all the Pokemon films, this has the biggest and best plot twist. I think the story is solid. It has a feeling that we've never seen before in a Pokemon film. I just don't find Celebi and Suicune that interesting. At number 10, I have the most recent animated film, The Power of Us. Just the animation alone is just gorgeous, but I loved it how Ash plays an important role in this film, but he's not the central focus. Instead, we got these handful of different characters with different personalities that have their own story in this film, and it's something we've never seen before in a Pokemon film, and I would have loved to see more of these characters. At number 9 is The Power of One, and I'm not going to call it Pokemon 2000 because that's a dumb name. The film is just a simple fetch quest, but the characters and seeing Lugia for the first time more than makes up for it, and it has my favourite score out of all the Pokemon films. At number 8 is Volcanion the Mechanical Marvel. This one makes me want to watch the X and Y era. What they do this time around is different. Volcanion is an utter douchebag to Ash and his friends, and Ash is caught up in the middle. He doesn't really volunteer to help this time around till later on in the film. There's some heartwarming moments, and seeing all these mega evolutions is fun to watch. At number 7, I have Lucario and the Mystery of Mew. Now, when this came out at this time, it was something new. It didn't feel cliche or copied. It didn't have a villain. It didn't introduce a new legendary Pokemon. The setting was new. Team Rocket actually felt like they have a purpose in this film. Every Pokemon has a pivotal role in this film, and Ash is at his best. In this film, he's mad, he's grief. He felt like the Ash from the earlier seasons. At number 6 is the one I put a lot higher compared to a lot of people, and that's Destiny Deoxys. This is the one I would go back to and watch it in a different angle, and that's a good thing since most Pokemon films rely on nostalgia. But Deoxys is just such a fascinating Pokemon. Seeing battle with Quasar is just epic to watch, and this is the first Pokemon to establish Pokemon outside of Earth. At number 5 is the recent live action Pokemon film, Detective Pikachu. This is the only Pokemon film on the list that I would recommend to anyone, even if you're not a fan of Pokemon. Having Pokemon in live action is something that I thought would never happen, and it did a great job of capturing what I love about Pokemon. Yes, the story is pretty much generic, but it has so much going for it. Ryan Reynolds does a great job of voicing Pikachu, the CGI looks incredible, and it doesn't rely on fan service. At number 4, I have Rise of Darkrai. Just like Destiny Deoxys, this is the one I would love to go back to and watch it in a different angle, and it's not because of nostalgia. They did so much right. I mean, so much interesting characters, haunting scenes for a Pokemon film, a complex story. I loved how Darkrai is portrayed in this, and the music by Christine Price, I'll Always Remember You, is one of my favourite songs to a Pokemon film. At number 3 is kind of the reboot to the franchise, and that's I Choose You. Now let's just forget Pikachu talks in this, but it goes back to the basics of what we loved about Pokemon and add something new. Yes, it is a nostalgia trip, but it's something that old school fans and new school fans wanted for years, and it's not afraid to talk about death in the Pokemon world. At number 2, I have Spell of the Unknown. I've seen this film countless times and it still manages to amaze me. The reasons why I love it is because instead of Ash volunteering to help this time around, it's more of a personal level, because as Molly wishes for a family, it tears Ash's family apart. Add that with a beautiful score and great hand-drawn animation. It's one of my favourite anime films. Ash and Misty have a lot more to do this time around, and seeing Charizard returns is the cherry on top. So at number 1, my favourite Pokemon film of all time, and yes, it's kind of obvious if you know which one I'm talking about, I went for the one that started it all, Mewtwo Strikes Back. Now I'll start with the obvious things why I love this film. I remember having this on VHS as a kid, and it's one of those films I would watch over and over and over again. I love Pikachu's Vacation. I think the soundtrack and the score is so memorable, whether it's M2M's Don't Say You Love Me or Christina Aguilera's We're a Miracle. It's the only Pokemon film on this list that the anime was setting up for, and it does have that connection to the canon, and it does have that weight to the characters later on in the series. It's cheesy, but in a good way. I think it has so much going for it. I think the battles are epic. There's emotional scenes. It does go through the morals and ethics of trainers and Pokemon. Look, I think right now, Pokemon 3 and this film are some of my favourite anime films of all time. Thank you so much for watching this video, guys. Go like, share and subscribe. Let me know what are your favourite Pokemon films. If you can rank them all, please comment down below. I really love to see it. Right now, go check out my Facebook, my Twitter and my Instagram page. You guys are awesome. Gotta catch them all.